This is Breaking Points. This story, boy. So, you know that Gen Z kid that we talked about recently, Harry Sisson, the one that heavily went after Bree and was smearing her on Twitter. Anybody that's basically against voting for Joe Biden, so to speak. And I told you in that previous episode that they were paid by the DNC, and I showed you receipts to show you the company that they work for, which is also part of the DNC company. So him and his friend have basically, their job is just to make it seem like Joe Biden is great and to talk good things about Joe Biden constantly. They're paid to do this, and they're paid very well based on what I saw, right? Breaking Points brought him on for like a Gen Z debate style episode. Let's get into it. Oh man, this is bad. This is bad.
Obviously, young voters are going to be really key in 2024. So we thought we would convene a big Zoomer TikTok panel. We're very excited to have us joining this morning. We've got Harry Sisson. He is a very enthusiastic and outspoken Biden supporter. And we also have Link Lauren, who is a conservative, a little bit Vivek curious, but I think still.
Why does Crystal leave out who Harry Sisson really is? Why is Crystal, by the way, all these people on Twitter. This kid was recruited by the DNC. Why is Crystal leaving that out? And you want to talk about, I don't know this other kid, but you want to talk about like Gen Z, like debate? Why not just bring on regular Gen Z people? Let me ask you guys a question. After what we've seen recently, the talking points from Crystal coming after Cornel West, basically wanting you to still vote for Joe Biden. That's what's going to happen. That's what she's edging towards. And the criticism coming from Kyle Kulinski in reference to Cornel West, which we talked about last night. I've been thinking about do you think that DNC consultants got to Crystal and Kyle? Why are they promoting someone who's propped up by the DNC? This kid is an op. This is the same kid who's constantly smeared Cornel West, used racist tropes against Cornel West on Twitter repeatedly. I think one of them he did delete. Me and Glenn talked about this. Attacked Bree, and this is who Crystal bring on? So I had to ask, did DNC consultants get to Crystal and Kyle? Is that why they're doing this switch? Let's get into it.
Keeping his options open in terms of the GOP primary. Fair to say, Link?
Well, whoa. I'm an independent.
Okay.
I'm an independent,
All right.
common sense moderate.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see about that as we get into the conversation.
I'm anti-Biden. I'm anti-Biden for sure.
Well, that's good.
Right.
All right.
Okay. Well, we can get into all of that. Gentlemen, we're really glad to have both of you. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Of course. So I wanted to start, and Harry, I'll start with you, but I'll give you the same question to Link. You know, voters of your generation are basically not really feeling either party so much, and we've got some approval ratings of the leaders of the two parties we can put up on the screen here. So let's start with Joe Biden. I think he sits in this particular survey at 37%, and then Donald Trump, very similar, 37%. And Joe Biden sits at about the same percentage point, right in the 30s, 37%. So overwhelmingly unfavorable opinion of both of these two individuals among young voters. So Harry, from your perspective as a Biden supporter, what are your peers getting wrong?
Any of these guys from the working class? Any of them? They supposed to speak for all of Gen Z? Okay.
I'm not necessarily sure it's what my peers are getting wrong. I think it possibly might be what the administration is doing wrong when it comes to messaging.
Okay.
I think that the Biden administration has done so much for young people, whether it's on climate change or historic investments in infrastructure or even education investments. There's a lot there that young people should be excited about. I mean, the largest investment in fighting climate change ever is something that we can all be really happy about, really excited about.
Notice the talking points. He talks about the investment in climate change, but notice he doesn't mention the Willow project that Joe Biden approved. He just gives summary. These are things to pay attention to. No details. He's not talking about details of the legislation, because if he was talking about details of the climate legislation, he would point out the fact that Joe Manchin also got some benefits from that climate legislation, and so did fossil fuel companies. They also got benefits from that. You see this, guys? But here's the thing. Crystal know this. Sagar know that. So what's this really about? There we go.
But I think that on the occasion, the administration does a poor job of kind of pitching these things to young people, which is sort of understandable given the era we're in right now with social media and technology. I don't think anybody has really perfected how we get the message through social media, like in terms of politics. I think a lot of people on social media have, but not necessarily politics. So I think once we get that message out more, once we start saying, hey, look at all these amazing things that the Biden administration has done for young people, especially as we get close to the election, more money is involved in politics. The opinions, at least on favorability, will start to shift.
Okay.
And that's his job, to promote Joe Biden on social media, to try to get young people to come out and support Joe Biden. That's his job.
Go ahead, Link.
I love when the Biden administration says it's the messaging. They're like, people don't know how well we're doing for them. They just don't know how good they have it. It's almost like this cultural gaslighting. Like, they think if they keep repeating Bidenomics, Bidenomics, Bidenomics over and over and over, young people are just going to have more money in their bank account. So it's not really translating. And I don't know if it's the messaging, because young people are just stressed financially. That's what I read every week in thousands of comments and messages.
So Link, let me just Link to follow up on that. Do you feel like the Republicans have offered an agenda that's resonating with young people, or that you would expect would resonate with young people? I do have some numbers I can put up on the screen for this as well.
For sure. Let's see.
Why does it have to be Republican? You see, didn't this guy tell you that he was an independent? Pay attention, guys. Didn't he say he's an independent? So why does it have to be Republican? This is binary thinking.
Go ahead and put the third graphic up on the screen. This was some polling of how young people feel on a variety of issues. This is 18 to 29-year-olds. Over time, we've seen them getting increasingly progressive on a variety of issues. Here you've got on stricter gun laws, wanting action on climate change, on same-sex relationships, on food and shelter being a basic right. So do you feel, I know you've got a critique of Biden here, and frankly, it's one that, I partially share, but do you think that the Republicans are offering something that could really fill that void?
Well, what I see from young people is they're much more beholden to policy than they are to political parties. So young people, they don't really care as much about Republican or Democrat. They want to vote for someone who's a transformational leader and who's actually going to help them. And
Did everybody hear that? Did Crystal hear that? Young people don't really care about political party. They care about someone who's going to be a transformational leader that can politically and really help them, and really help them. Did everybody hear that? But Crystal said, Cornel West, no third party. Support Joe Biden. Lesser two evils. Can't get Trump. You guys see this? Okay. See, I knew this because I worked with young people for many, many years, and I knew that this was how they felt. Let's continue.
I think young people really want someone who's closer to their age. To be honest, I'm not ageist. If Biden was some spry whippersnapper, I'd say go ahead, run for a second term. But the guy's pretty much incoherent, works 2 hours a day, and is stumbling and falling down. So most people do not want him to seek re-election.
So, Harry, you've been pretty vociferous. I can see you laughing there about Biden's age, but I think it's a legitimate concern. 70-something% of the American people agree. 69% of Democrats, actually the vast majority of the people in your age group specifically, I guess kind of mine as well, also think that Biden is far too old to run for president. So whenever you're engaging, with your audience, people who are young, how do you try and convince them? What's the response here to the critique?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think that talking about his age is wrong. I don't think that it's an unfair critique. And I understand why, some people might be concerned about his age, right? I get it. But I think that when we're talking about age, policy and accomplishments matter more. And the fact
some people have a problem with Joe Biden's age. Over 70% of the American population don't want him to run again. That's more than some people. That's most. The majority don't care.
the fact of the matter is this president has been one of the most accomplished and, in my view, one of the best presidents in modern history. And I'm happy to explain why.
Just hold on, Link. Hold on. We'll come to it. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
The American Rescue Plan.
You guys look at this. Crystal don't look happy. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know these people, right? So I've never met either of these people. I never talked to Saga. I never talked to Crystal, but Crystal does not look happy. Like, I don't know what's happening here, but it's almost like she's being forced to do this. That's the impression. Like, look at the look on Crystal's face. She don't look happy.
Bipartisan infrastructure deal, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the PACT Act, the CHIPS Act, rejoining the WHO, the Inflation Reduction Act. I mean, the list goes on, right? I think that when you're looking at this president, look at the policy, look at the productivity of this administration, as opposed to, oh, let's just talk about his age, which, as I said, a fair concern. But in my view, what we get done is more important than the age of the candidate.
Okay.
What we get done, but not much was done. You see this? Again, he does summary, not details.
And then, Link, you know, what Crystal asked you about policy and all of that. I mean, look, you went to NYU, both of you gentlemen, actually. It's kind of interesting in order to think about two different trajectories, crossing paths, I guess, in the night. This
is who they bring on to speak for the young people. Two guys, two paid influencers. The one on the left, we already know is a DNC plant and is paid by the DNC. Both of them that went to NYU. Went to private universities. This is who they bring on to speak for the young people.
We talk here about younger Republicans or even independent, non-democratic voters. Do you actually see a more policy concern? Because mostly from what I can tell and from peers as well, a lot of it is around cultural concern. There's nothing wrong with that. But I do think that is a major animating factor. I'm curious how you square your answer with kind of that observation that we've generally seen as dissonance to like what the overall cultural left is doing.
Well, I definitely think the mainstream media is profiting heavy off of these culture war issues. And I knew Harry was going to have his DNC talking points. He was going to list the CHIPS Act, the Inflation Reduction Act.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
No. I totally good for you. But I've been traveling across this country the past year, and when you go talk to maybe a rural voter in Iowa in a small town who owns a small business, they're not feeling the effects of those things. So in a New York, Manhattan liberal elite bubble, you can list all of those accomplishments, but when you go out into the real world, people just aren't feeling it. They want someone new. They want someone different. So I'm not taking away that he's got these things passed and the debt ceiling and all of that, but people still want someone new. And I'll also point this out.
Let me pause for just a second. How many of you are benefiting from the Inflation Reduction Act? Did that help your bank account? Did it help put food on the table for you? Anything like that? No. What about housing? No. Healthcare? No. All right.
He has all of these accomplishments. Why is he still neck and neck with Trump in the polls? Wouldn't there be a massive margin? Why is it always 1 point here, 1 point here, half a point here? Wouldn't he just be winning by a landslide if they say Trump's a criminal and Trump's been indicted 1,000 times and Biden's so great? Clearly, it's not sticking.
Yeah, except, you know, when we look at polls at this time in different elections, they were never right? Like Rudy Giuliani was leading at this point. And I find the point of, you know, the liberal talking point in Manhattan to be interesting because it's not just, you know, me going to NYU saying all these policies are great. It's like, no, the American people are really feeling this. Like the veterans who were exposed to toxic burn pits, do you want to tell them that, you know, they're not actually feeling the benefits? The people who've had their kids lost to terrible mass shootings, do you want to go tell them that the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which expands red flag laws, background checks are not significant?
Okay, let's talk about veterans. Hot button topic here. Let's talk about veterans. My dad is a vet. You know what I noticed in reference to like this whole veteran thing? All the people like, oh, this thing passed for the veterans, the toxic burn thing. This country does not give a shit about the veterans, okay? Go with me to the VA sometime and I'll show you how they treat the vets in this country, how they delay their treatment, how they make it so that these guys have to constantly come back to the VA just to get one prescription sometimes. how they make it so that these guys have to take years. It took my dad years to get disability approved from the VA. Years. By the time that happened, I was already done with college. So you want to talk about veterans, what's doing so great? Come with me to the VA, Harry, and I'll show you just how bad this country treats veterans, especially when they come back from combat. This country don't give a shit about veterans in this country. Hot button topic for me, sorry, but I've seen it. There's a lot of homeless vets. Just go through Harvard Square, you see it every day. There's a lot of homeless vets. There's a lot of vets that have been on drugs basically because they can't deal with the PTSD from these wars. So you come with me and let's go talk to the vets. I'll show you how the vets really doing in this country.
Do you want to go tell the record low unemployment, the people who now have jobs, the more jobs that Biden, like 13 million jobs in the Biden administration, would go tell those people that this administration is not working for them? I mean, or how
the 13 million jobs that they never explained to you what those jobs were. They never explained it to you. The unemployment report right now says that the unemployment is actually worse than they predicted it would be for the month of July. So it's just, again, he says the obvious things. He just repeats the DNC talking points. He repeats the same things the CNN says, the same things that some of these DNC like staffers say when they go into MSNBC and CNN. He repeats the same talking points, but he don't go into detail. What are these jobs? How much are these jobs paying? Are they part-time? Are they full-time jobs? Do these jobs offer benefits? They never tell you. You can create thousands of jobs that are just temp positions, boo. You can create thousands of jobs that are just 3-month contract positions. Let's keep it real.
How about the people who were just coming out of COVID? President Biden inherited a constitutional crisis from Donald Trump, inciting an insurrection. People are not vaccinated. Unemployment's still high. Nobody's making any money. Then President Biden comes in, buys a lot of vaccines, gets the job market back open by making crucial investments. I mean, if you would like to go tell all those people that what they experienced was fake, then by all means, but I think we're going to listen to the American people, especially, I mean, we can go into the women and their reproductive freedoms who are being stripped. I mean, how about that 13-year-old girl in Mississippi recently who's now a mother? I mean, do you want to?
Hold up. Spotlight in the house. Thank you for the super chat, Link Lauren. So this is you. You are the other gentleman in the picture. I'm the other kid on Breaking Points. I had to mention he's paid allegedly. It felt weird being on with him. I'd love to call in. Love your show. Thank you so much and welcome. Welcome. Boy, I tell you, man, this is a doozy. Yeah, I don't understand. I really don't understand why they brought this kid on. We know this. We know it. Unless, again, like I said, they're trying to make people vote for Joe Biden. And thank you for this one as well. Love you, Sabs. I've never taken money from a political party. I'm not owned by anyone. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, welcome. Let's go on.
Go tell her that the Republican policy is working, what this administration is fighting for when it comes to reproductive freedom is not real. I mean, I think that sounds more like a conservative talking point in wherever you might be living right now than the liberal Manhattaner combating average Americans or anything like that.
They always leave out the fact that the Democratic Party could have codified Roe v. Wade into law when Obama was president, and Obama decided that it was not going to be his first priority, even though he ran on it being his first priority. Changed his mind once he was elected. This is something the Democratic Party could have done a long time ago. I don't agree with taking away a woman's right to choose. I don't agree with that. I am pro-choice, obviously. But I mean, you can blame the Republicans to a certain extent, but eventually you have to take ownership over the fact that the Democratic Party didn't do what they could have done given the time that they had. He's not going to tell you that, though.
I did want to get your thoughts specifically on abortion, if you could respond on that piece, because obviously in elections this year and going back to the midterms, it's been a big issue for Republicans.
Sure.
We just had in Ohio issue 1, which was very much a pro-choice versus pro-life. Even in a red state like Ohio, overwhelmingly the pro-choice side wins. So how do you think Republicans should be talking about that issue, and how much do you think that matters in terms of young people?
Well, I would say a ton of Republicans are pro-life, so they're totally fine with everything. But I'd like to point out, I'm a gay guy. I don't have kids. I don't even date women. So me opining on abortion, probably not the best person to talk to about this topic.
You're still allowed to have an opinion.
For sure.
Yeah.
You're still allowed to have an opinion, Lynn.
For sure. But when I talk to people, I do realize tons of this country, they are pro-life, and you're going to have people who are pro-choice. So I'm not here to tell people who to vote for when they go to the ballot box. I'm just here to represent the thousands of comments and messages I read every week from people across this country.
Oh, I will. I will. Yeah, Republicans across the country are trying to take women's reproductive freedoms. I mean, it's that simple. We don't have to dodge the question. We can just be honest about it. Republicans.
Are all Republicans anti-choice? That's actually not true. In fact, if you look at recent polls, there are more Republicans that are okay with that now. Ooh, man.
Across the country are trying to take women's reproductive freedoms. We saw it on the debate stage. Asa Hutchinson bragging about all the pro-life legislation he signed. Ron DeSantis bragging about his heart bill. Tim Scott saying that he'll sign the most conservative pro-life legislation of elected. Donald Trump saying that women should face punishment if they get an abortion. We have Alabama now suing or threatening to jail people who even assist women to get abortions. Not, the doctor, not the woman, but even people who assist. This is one of the biggest crises of our times, where you have Republicans directly infringing on the rights of women across this country.
That's the biggest crisis of our time? Really? I think the economy is the biggest crisis of our time. Have you seen the homelessness rate? Homelessness has gone up like 25% under Biden's administration. All right.
And it's disgusting. So when you're looking at 2024, you're thinking, man, how do we get back to a time where women can actually choose what they want to do with their body? You look at President Biden, you look at the Democrats, who have a record of putting on pro-choice judges to different courts, and even the Department of Justice right now, under President Biden, under Attorney General Merrick Garland, have sued consistently in these Republican states to get these bans overturned. Now, sorry, I don't want to take up too much time, but this is a very important issue.
I'm sorry. Joe Biden approved an anti-choice federal judge. I covered that story last year. Joe Biden approved an anti-choice federal judge. Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and Clyburn, I always forget his name for some reason, and Clyburn, let's all remember how they all lined up and got in line to support Henry Cuellar, who is also anti-choice, instead of supporting Jessica Cisneros, who was pro-choice, who was his opponent. You see what they're leaving out? Now, here's the thing. What I just told you, Crystal and Sagar know this too. Where's the pushback? Why are they not saying anything? Well, Sagar is conservative. So let's go to Crystal. Why Crystal not saying what? Why is Crystal not telling them what I just told you?
Well, Harry, how come Democrats didn't codify Roe versus Wade when they could have? And how come, even moving forward into this election, because I'm on the same page as you are, I'm pro-choice.
Sure.
I would like to see Roe versus Wade at the very least be codified and put back into place. That's actually not the message. That's not actually what they're pushing for. What they are saying is we just won't do the bad things that the Republicans are doing. Don't Democrats owe women, young people, people across this country more of an affirmative agenda to restore the rights that were lost, given that you do have these what in my opinion are atrocious situations of 13-year-olds being forced to bear their rapist babies? Don't
Absolutely.
They have a responsibility to go further than just saying we're better than the bad guys?
I don't know why she's asking him that question. Like when I first saw this, that's right. Colin said Hillary Clinton enlisted Kane to be her VP anti-choice. That's right. But I don't know why she's asking him why the Democrats didn't codify Roe v. Wade. How the hell would he know? Maybe you should ask some of the politicians that you interview on that show. Maybe you should ask them that question. But don't you think it's strange? What I just told you about what Joe Biden did and other specific Democrat politicians in reference to the pro-choice issue, don't you think it is strange that Crystal did not mention that? Again, like I said, I would not be surprised. You got this kid on your show, this DNC op on your show, this DNC op who sat there and used racist tropes against Cornel West on Twitter, calling him a bad dad and a deadbeat and all that shit, even though Cornel West had debunked the smears about him. Pushing this narrative, continuing to spread that message as if he's a bad black dad. Continuing that racist trope. You got this kid on your show who heavily attacked Breonna Joy Gray, lied about her. So I would not be surprised if DNC consultants did not come to Crystal and Kyle Kulinski. I would not be surprised, especially now, considering the fact that Breaking Points is over 1 million subs and Secular Talk reached 1 million subs. I wouldn't be surprised. Why are these people even doing this? If you're going to sound just like mainstream media, why don't you just go work for CNN already? Why don't they just go work for MSNBC? What is happening here, people? Think about it. I told you what they'll do. They've done these things before. They go after people who may have like a progressive agenda. They'll go after those people, especially if they have a large following, and say, bring everybody back over to the Democratic Party. Slowly wield your audience back over to the Democrat establishment. Don't be too obvious about it, though, because then they'll notice. David Pakman used to be this way, too. David Pakman used to be all for progressive agenda. David Pakman realized there was more money on the other side if he told you to vote for Joe Biden. David Pakman sold out a couple years ago. Let's continue.
Crystal, I couldn't agree more, right? I couldn't agree more. I think that, in my view, though, the administration has laid out, especially President Biden, how they intend to reinstate these rights, whether it be through judicial nominees. President Biden has always said, I will appoint pro-choice justices. If there's an opening on the Supreme Court, you have Clarence Thomas in the 70s, Alito in the 70s, Roberts, who served for 15 years. President Biden has always said that. However, also President Biden said that he endorses removing the filibuster for codifying Roe v. Wade. Now, if we can get the Democratic senators that we need in the next election and retake the House, we'll do it. I'm so...
Honey, Joe Biden don't even know where he at right now. Joe Biden also said after the midterms that they're not going to codify Roe v. Wade. So Joe Biden all over the place. Don't you guys know this kid has talking points handed down to him from the DNC. This is so fake. Do you think young people really believe this? I worked with Gen Z kids. My students were Gen Z. None of those mofos were excited about Joe Biden. I'm supposed to sit here and believe Joe Biden is the best president ever, as he does on Twitter. I'm really supposed to buy this shit? This is not how Gen Z kids talk, goddammit. I worked with those kids. Most of them don't like no damn Joe Biden. Most of them don't even vote. Most of them are not paying attention to politics at all. This is so fake.
Confident that it will get done. Now, as to why it hasn't happened previously, under President Obama, he had some super majorities, but a lot of those senators were from a lot more conservative states. The national sentiment on abortion wasn't the same. So do I blame?
No, under Barack Obama, and Ro Khanna verified this in the interview that I had with him. Under Barack Obama, he could have removed the filibuster. He did have the support to do that. So it's just, what is he talking about? What is he talking about? Oh my God.
Those Southern, or maybe not Southern Democrats, but those Democrats who were in those more conservative states for not using their power then and codifying it, absolutely. But the political kind of landscape was just a little bit different then. But it's still a missed opportunity, and I think if we get that opportunity again, we will take it.
Link, young voters, #1 issue at the polls. You said you're an independent, you're anti-Biden. If you're young, why should you not vote for Biden?
Well, I'm not here to tell anybody who to vote for. I think people should make their own decision.
Yeah.
Honestly, the biggest issue for me with Biden is the censorship on social media. I mean, going back to court to try and overturn the lower court's ruling to censor social media content and steer the narrative, that's just never going to sit well with me. I think his calamitous trip to Maui last week really solidified it for me. I mean, you go to Maui and give a speech about almost losing your Corvette in a small kitchen fire and making glib jokes and comments when people have lost everything. They've been torched to the ground. They can't find their families. They can't find their kids. He's cracking jokes. Then he hops on a plane to go back to his $18 million mansion in Lake Tahoe and take Pilates classes and walk around a parking lot with a student.
Yep.
I want a transformational new leader in this country to sit in the Oval Office and really enact change. People need to see strength and see a real leader. And Joe Biden isn't giving me that. It's not giving young people that.
But
and you're not going to get any transformation happening through the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. If you're going to get some type of transformation, it's going to have to come from the outside. It's going to be an independent or a third party run. And that's why I tell people, I say, if you want change, young people watching this, if you want change, you need to get out of the two-party system. You're not going to get any transformational change happening that way. You're really not. The time is now. The time is come and gone, to be honest with you. Transformational change. What he said about Joe Biden in Hawaii is 100% true. So it's just the censorship issue. Now, to Harry, the social media censorship issue doesn't matter because remember, he's recruited by the DNC. So his Twitter account is going to get a lot of followers. His Twitter account is going to be heavily promoted automatically in the algorithm because they're trying to sell Joe Biden. That is his job. So he doesn't care about the social media censorship. You see how this works? Let's continue.
I think it's not just about what you're against. It's also got to be what you're for. Very likely the Republican nominee is going to be Donald Trump. You know, Trump also censored on social media. You can see that. You can see that. You can go and read the Twitter files and you'll see his administration doing a lot of the same stuff that the Biden administration was doing. In fact, I mean, the Hunter Biden.
Actually, through most of the Twitter files, it was the Democratic Party. I covered every bit of the Twitter files on this show. And most of the damage that was done via the Democratic Party.
Laptop thing happened while Trump was still president. So let's keep that in mind. That's number one. Number two, I mean, in terms of hurricane response, he was, very late in terms of his response to Hurricane Maria.
He took 13 days.
Oh, Crystal. So because get this, guys, you see this shit? Crystal is basically telling you because Trump response to Puerto Rico was late, it was okay for Biden to do it. So because Trump did it, it's okay for Biden to do it? Two wrongs don't make a right. You're supposed to be better than that. You ran against Donald Trump. So he's supposed to be better than Donald Trump. He's not supposed to do the same shit, Crystal. These people are reaching so bad, so desperate.
Showed up for 2 hours.
And go back. Go back and look how Donald Trump did.
No. It took 13 days, and then he was back in the Pilates studio.
My question to you directly, and then I'll get Harry in. My question to you directly is Trump better than Biden? You know, would you, if that's your choice, Trump v. Biden, or would you vote third party? Like, what would be your choice in that situation, and why?
For sure. So the thing about American politics is you never know who's going to emerge. I mean, look at how many candidates were on the stage last week, right? So I'm going to keep my options open and see who I feel in November of 2024.
But let's be real. This is what it's likely coming down to.
I'm probably the most real person. Let's get real, Crystal.
Is like 50% ahead.
Why does he have to make a decision right now? Why is she pressuring him to make a decision right now? The election is in 2024.
Of everybody else, you know, Nikki Haley gained like 3 points after this debate. It's not enough to overcome.
But if you guys have a nail in the coffin, but Crystal, if you have a nail in the coffin with the trial, then isn't it sealed up?
I'm just trying to figure out, where do you actually stand? Like, do you actually think Trump is better than Biden? If that's your choice, are you a Trump guy, or are you on the fence? Are you looking at a third party candidate?
We also never said anything about nails in the coffin.
Yeah,
just to be clear.
Yeah, no, we've never said that. Definitely. So anyway, where do you stand if that's your choice? Where do you stand if that's your choice?
Honestly, traveling, getting to know these candidates, I really like some other candidates, and I'm looking to see who's going to emerge in November of 2024.
Okay.
See, But see,
Go ahead, Harry.
That is.
I'd also like to point out.
That's what we call a non-answer.
You can let him finish it. One second.
Hold on.
We'll get to you.
Hold on.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Link.
No.
Go ahead, Link.
I'm an independent new media journalist. So I report on culture war stories. I follow politics very closely. It's not my place to tell people how to vote or exactly who I'm going to vote for. Harry, obviously, he made the decision to totally endorse Joe Biden. And if they were paying for my flights and hotels, maybe I'd do the same thing.
Flights and hotels are paid for. Please put me in contact with.
Oh my God!
No, but it's okay.
I would love for
you made a decision to.
No, but listen.
I come from a place of journalism.
I gave you your time.
You're an influencer for Biden, so that's the difference here.
Okay,
Harry, go ahead and respond.
Harry, you can go ahead and respond. Go ahead.
Sorry, guys. I apologize.
You're fine. Go ahead. Yeah.
Crystal Sager. So what we just heard from my counterpart on the right is what we call a non-answer. You asked him a question. Are you going to support Trump? He couldn't bring himself to support the 4-time indicted, disgraced former president who's now a proven sexual abuser or rapist.
Do journalists have
accused sexual abuser? So we just going to pretend like Joe Biden's not accused of sexual assault too? You see the problem? They don't want to bring that up though. Oh, and by the way, Crystal interviewed Tara Reid about her accusation against Joe Biden. So there's that.
Let him finish.
Or rapists as deemed in courts in New York, right? Couldn't give you a determination there. But just to respond to what he said earlier, I mean, I think it's just when you ask him, like, why would he support Trump over Biden, right? Why is he voting for Trump? He then cited President Biden going to Maui as one of his big reasons. And he's like, oh, he took 13 days, but he wasn't clamoring. I don't think he's brought up the fact that Donald Trump took 15 days to go to Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria, which killed thousands, right? There's no criticism there. He's like, oh, Biden took 13 days. And the reason that Biden took 13 days is because Maui was on fire.
There's no criticism there from him because Donald Trump is not the current president. Joe Biden is the current president. He just told you he's open to seeing if new candidates emerge. He never said he's supporting Donald Trump at all. This is what happens when you have binary thinking. Again, he's paid. But this is, again, when you have binary thinking. All you can think is Biden or Trump or right or left or Democrat or Republican. And he just told you that he's open to seeing other candidates emerge. He didn't tell you he was supporting Donald Trump.
Like it's unsafe for the president and the Secret Service to travel there along with the federal response going on. And the governor there was like, yeah, within 6 hours, the president met our needs. On the 10th, President Biden signed an emergency.
Wasn't Tulsi Gabbard there on the ground the next day?
On the 10th, President Biden signed an emergency declaration. So look, you can clamor in with Tulsi Gabbard, this or that, or President Biden Maui. But the people who are actually in Hawaii are saying, yeah, President Biden met all our needs within hours. Like he's.
No, they're not. That's an outright lie. Look at the videos, guys. We played the videos on this show. There's numbers of videos on TikTok and on Twitter as well. That is not what the residents are saying. Notice how he kind of shifted past the Tulsi Gabbard comment. Tulsi Gabbard was there before Joe Biden was. How celebrities were there before Joe Biden was.
Been great. The federal response has been fantastic.
I don't know because
I've seen people in Maui. It's a bit more complicated. Yeah, go ahead.
I've seen people in Maui on their local news station saying, "Screw Joe Biden." They put up a sign over their businesses saying, "We're sorry you lost your Corvette in the fire." I don't know if the people in Maui are so happy, but God bless.
All right,
I'm just saying. Can I say one thing real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
This comparison between me and Harry, I feel it's a false comparison. Harry is an influencer who's decided to totally endorse Joe Biden, which is his prerogative, right? I'm a new media journalist. My medium happens to be TikTok, right? It's not my place to opine or tell people who to vote for. I'm not owned by a political party. I'm not owned by a media conglomerate. I cover the news. I look at a lot of information and I give you my take. That's it.
Okay.
So let's close by.
It's just, and see, Harry didn't push back because Harry is owned by a media conglomerate that's attached to the DNC. This is who they brought. I'm going to go ahead and say this and keep it real, because I don't know what's happening to Sagar either, because he seems to be disappearing or fading into the background of this network or whatever it's supposed to be. I notice they don't like to use the word network. It might be about time for Sagar to go get his own shit. It might be that time for him to maintain the cred that he has. And I don't agree with Sagar on a lot of things. Like, he has like his conservative views. I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but I will say this. It might be time for Sagar to get those bags and go get his own shit. And I say it like that because given the comments that came from Crystal recently in reference to Cornel West and Joe Biden and lying and saying that this economy is working for people, which it is not. And Crystal knows that unless she's living in a fucking bubble. It just makes breaking points look bad. And it's obvious. You can see who's taking the lead. It's obvious. You can see that Crystal's the one taking the lead. Who's running the show? So it might be time for Saga to pack the bags and go. There was a song about that. What's the song? Is it John Denver? Who sings that song? Anyway, look at this. Watch this. Now, this is from Our Revolution. It is John Denver who sings a song that goes, I got my bags packed, da da da, leaving something. I don't know. Anyway, look at this poll from Our Revolution 2024 temperature check. 41%. Look at this. 41% of the voters feel depressed, angry, or unmotivated about the 2024 election. 24% plan to vote for someone other than Joe Biden in the Democratic primary. You guys see that? On a jet plane. That's what it is. Thank you. You see this? That's their members poll. But Bidenomics is so great. So fantabulous. I think I still have Washington left, don't I? Yeah, I have Washington left. I'll do Washington. I'm not sure what I did here. Anywho, let me go to some of the comments. What a mess. Colin says Crystal ain't loyal to no one but her money. Thank you for the super chat, Paula. I can't wait to see your segment of Kyle's appearance on Rising. I didn't see Kyle on Rising. I saw Rising make fun of Kyle. Thank you for the super chat, Colin. I want to know what education investments Harry is talking about. I'm still waiting for Biden to cancel my student loan debt. Bingo. Thank you, Anthony. I am not with progressives on gun laws or climate. And there's an alien face. Thank you, Duckzilla. Did the deep state threaten Crystal Ball? Thank you, Dante. Their silence is manufacturing consent for the MIC. And thank you again, Link. I'm too based for these things. I'm not bought. Thank you so much for that. Man, I got to tell you, like, that is, I don't know what has happened to like what's left of left media. Or I know Breaking Points is offers both points of view, but still, like, the people that are left of the left space or the independent media space is just motherfuckers sold out. Thank you, Victor. Ramaswamy Buttigieg 2024 LMAO. I know, right? I know. Yeah, that would be interesting.